Everybody, namaste. We are back again with a big gap in between with Dr. Archana Kumar to continue with the chapter 6, and we'll be talking about Vairagya today. And Dr. Archana will herself tell you why she's not been there for so many days and why it is important for us to continue this chapter. Thank you so much, Dr. Archana. Thank you. Namaste.
Everyone. Yes, the gap first. We lost Dr. my colleague, my guru, my teacher's son to COVID. And he was just 35. And the only thing that I felt right at that time is like just being with the family, being with my teacher as much as I can. Not that I won't be meeting them today, but it's just that today I thought that because the time is such and because we are doing Bhagavad Gita, I felt all the more responsible to come back and talk about this particular chapter or topic which we have been talking to you about. It's called Vairagya, or basically detachment. And I was very surprised that we just finished with Ashtang Yoga, that I'll just brush you all up with again. That after this chapter, the next subtopic that came over was Vairagya and the situation right now in my life, in my teacher's life, in all of us people who are associated with that family. This Vairagya, this detachment is probably the word, the call of time right now, because he left a 31-year-old wife, a 4-year-old kid, a senior citizen grandmother, father, and mother. So that one person missing from that family. Not that they didn't try, we did everything. Like today, also, I was listening and reading somewhere, and they said that, even doctors at a certain point say that, when you go with your problem, something that's very major, and you say, oh doctor, please help me, you're the only one who can do it. And there are times when even doctor says, I will try my best and just go and pray. That sentence, you know what it means, that go and pray. It does not mean that you're going to think negative things. It just means that I am doing my action. I, the doctor, is doing his action, his karma, of probably operating on your person, performing a surgery, or taking the course of the treatment, whatever the disease is. It might be a very small acute problem, it might be COVID, it might be anything. We all land up in that situation sometime or other in our life. But even that doctor tells you, have faith in God, pray. What is that? That is the basic energy that he's putting into you in that Christian consciousness. That beautifully, he is not telling you go read Gita, he's not telling you anything. He just says have faith and go and pray. Whatever you pray, whatever energy you relate to, whatever superior or super soul you relate to, just go and pray for the well-being of the individual. That's what we all do. And we know and we have experienced, at least I have, the strength, the power, the energy of praying. It is remarkable. There is no comparison to it. And yes, our prayers, whether they are answered or they are not answered, is entirely another topic, another ballgame. We are doing our job by getting the patient the right consult, the right treatment, and then leaving it to the supreme energy. Because there is a very beautiful sentence that I have come across many, many times, which goes in Hindi as Maran likhaye mandal mein aaye. That means that even when we were just conceived and when we take the first breath, that is when the reverse clock of ours to the point of death starts. It is very surprising that we all celebrate our birthdays. All right. Today is my birthday. We do this and this. We never realize that we are one more year old. We are one more year progressing towards the end. I'm not asking you people to be negative, but we have to learn the art of detachment that Gita is so emphatically teaching us. I'm not saying do not love your loved ones, do not take care of them. All the more reason if you live with the idea that today is my last day, I am sure you're going to adore everyone and everything to your fullest heart's content. That is something like I am visiting this family and we sit and talk about the person we lost, and we remember so many beautiful things that person did for us. Very small things, but very meaningful today because we are understanding that. And we need to understand that we have just completed the chapter where we have learned Ashtang Yoga. Now, in today's time, which we call the Kali Yuga, the Kali, in today's time, it is very difficult for us to actually, sit down and like look for a sacred place, look for a silent place, focus our mind. There's so many things happening, and especially, controlling or restraining our senses. We have been talking about all this. All right. I'll brush you through that. But all this, then controlling our senses, then restraining our mind to go haywire, or, make our mind which takes us and gets carried away, then observing celibacy, or even maintaining the thing that we need to be alone for particular time. I don't think how many of us actually can practically do this in today's time, when everybody is saying I don't have time, I don't have time. That's how they go. All right. What I am trying to tell you is that the fact that we are seeing so many things happening around us, negative and positive both, we need to learn the concept of Christian consciousness rising above the body. That means that the way we had discussed, that the Panch Mahabhut, that is the body, you know, which has the Atma, or the autonomic power energy inside it, which is running the body. All right. Now, that differentiation we have to have. We have to learn that we are not just the body. The problem is we are just on the material level. We need to rise above that. Rising above that does not mean renunciating your house, leaving your work, just going into the forest and meditating. No. It basically means that wherever you are placed, you can follow the eightfold yoga system that we have just learned. I will just repeat that for everybody. They were yam, niyam, asan, which were on the level of body, pranayam relating to the breath, pratyahar, dharana relating to the mind, and dhyan and samadhi. Okay, that was relating to our jeev or atma. All right. Please understand that you can follow all of them living where you are placed. You have to just learn. Like, I remember when we were talking about Yam, we talked about small things like truth, non-violence, brahmacharya, celibacy, and we talked in depth about it, that they are not just words, they are words which can be practically applied in our life. That is what Gita is teaching us, and that is exactly what Christian consciousness means, that as an individual you can live your life verbatim whatever we are talking about. It takes a lot of effort for an individual to come down to the basic level of spirituality, of Christian consciousness, of separating yourself from the material nature and getting yourself to complete spiritual annihilation.
You know, Archana, it's very interesting. Like you said, we completed a certain chapter, and then there is a situation in your life which you're dealing with.
Yes.
This is exactly what Kwesi says. You go to teach something, that's going to be your challenge.
It has to be, and you have to come out of it.
Yeah, the challenge is presented to you because you're challenging the universe. And when
Yes.
we challenge the universe, we not only challenge the universe with what we say, because our words become material, but we also challenge the world by our names. That is, whatever our name may be,
Yeah.
whatever the meaning of that name is. Let's
Yes.
say somebody's name is Hope.
Yeah.
They have to constantly be, they'll constantly be challenged where they will not feel hopeful.
Yes.
Constantly they will have to relive their name. So if we say certain words again and again, we say certain phases again and again, we need to be mindful because we are then challenging the universe. In fact, Dr. Kwesi goes a step further and says that if you're writing a book, be very careful because when you're writing the book, the whatever you're writing on, the expert that you're becoming on, the universe will actually come back to check whether you're really an expert. And in my experience, I've seen some of my mentors write about cancer, and then they had their loved one, the loved one with whom they were most attached, go through the cancer. I'm not saying, hey, don't write. I'm not saying, hey, don't have names. I'm just saying that universe challenges us in many, many ways. And we need to be very, very mindful of what we are putting out in the universe.
Anu, this is exactly what I've been saying, that your thoughts, your word, and your action have to be in sync. You cannot say, be in control, have detachment, have vairagya, restrain your senses, control everything, and then just suddenly a situation comes and you break down. And that is the beauty of life, the way you're saying, and Dr. Kwesi has put it across, that you need to prove to the world and the universe, which is going to be checking you every minute. And I observed this in past 6 days, 5 days, that yes, I am there in that situation. I am voluntarily going there to check myself and see again and again that if what I am talking, is it even an iota there in my living? जिसे हिंदी में we say कथनी और करनी, your spoken words and your action that you are doing and the activities that you're doing, are they in sync? I did not invite the situation, it came, and it was the challenge that I had to face. And yes, thanks to everybody, I think I am doing justice to what I'm talking, and only then I can have the conviction of telling anybody that living in the Panch Mahabhut, you are capable of vairagya or detachment. That is what we are going to be talking about.
Body, Panch Mahabhut is your body. Living in your body, you are capable of detachment despite living in your body, which is constantly bringing about attachment, attachment, attachment.
And you are even attached to, your discharges at times. You don't want to just let them go. You do not want to let them go. You are so attached. I mean, I see myself getting attached to so many things. And when I do the talking, I realize that I need to get over all this myself. And yes, every time I am talking to everyone,
Can you give us
it
an example of where it comes to your mind that, despite you talking, you might not be in sync with, and that you need to also be detached in certain areas? Could you throw light on that?
it is so simple as that. Like, I am not very fond of jewelry, but clothes is one thing which, if I have, and if they aren't really torn, and they're good, and the situation that I am in today in my life, the position that I am, it wasn't as comfortable as 20 years before or 23 years before. I went through my share of struggle and situations. So every cloth that I bought, which would come after a lot of hard work and difficulty, now that was one thing which I would find very difficult to part with. But yes, over a period of time I am learning to part with it. Because every piece of cloth that I would buy would be like, I've really worked very hard to achieve that cloth because I wanted to, and there was a time I couldn't have it.
So
So it was a lot of value for me.
I'm going to give you an example here. My nani uh, stood and got the foundation of the house done uh, where my ancestors stayed and my mom stayed, and which was my nani house. She practically laid the foundation, or dared to stand there and get the bungalow, the house done for herself in a state of Punjab, which is Ludhiana. She probably was so attached to that house that even when she left this earth, people felt her presence in the house. We can, we think we are not attached, but the reality
Oh,
is we don't know what we're going to be attached to, the
yeah.
house, the jewelry. And I laugh always and say this: जब कोई मर जाता है, I'm going to say this in Hindi and then translate. जब कोई मर जाता है तो लोग बड़े प्यार से उसकी बॉडी को जाके बाय बाय टाटा कर आते हैं, उसके कपड़ों को उठा के अनाथ आश्रम में दे देते हैं, उसके बिस्तरे को उठा के कहीं दे देते हैं. यार मुझे अभी तक समझ में नहीं आया कि उसके पैसे और उसका गोल्ड उठा के क्यों नहीं देते हैं,
Never, Anu, never.
क्यों रखते हैं, उसे पुश्तानी क्यों बुलाते हैं. So just to let you know, what I'm speaking in Hindi is, I've often wondered, when somebody dies, we very happily and lovingly, not happily, but we very lovingly cremate his body, say bye bye to it. We give his clothes off to the orphanage. We give his, maybe on what he slept to someone. We give his chair to someone very happily,
Everything, everything.
everything. But none of us part with his property, none of us part with his money, none of us part with his jewelry. Is that
No.
saying that we are selectively attached to certain things, and certain things we are ready to keep, certain things we are not ready to keep, and really we are not hypocrite from any corner. No, 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 no. We never knew what that meant.
Anu, and the worst is that, uh, you know, this concept, this thing of keeping the jewelry, when I remember somebody mentioning me yesterday in my clinic that their uh, her bhabhi, her brother's wife, she expired, and when she expired, she had a good bangle with diamonds on it, And for some reason, she had a lot of edema. So her hands, and because she died in the hospital, so the body came home quite late. So you can understand the hands were completely swollen. And they went to the extent of cutting the bangles with some kind of instrument and then went for the cremation. I mean, I was so surprised. I was like, yes. And then we say, we don't keep anything from the dead. I mean, we are so hypocrites, really. That's the word. We
Right.
are.
Yeah.
We are. And if you love an individual, it is not just the jewelry. I mean, you would love everything. Not that you do not love the loved one, but again, keep those memories, keep the learnings, keep the teachings of that individual.
No, look back.
Keep him alive in every way.
Look back at the sati that happened.
Yes.
Families picked up the woman and put her on the pyre that she will die with her husband. But no
Yeah.
parent died with him.
No.
Sat down over there and said, I will kill myself. I can't live without my son. But we expected a girl who was just there for some time with him to fall in love with him so madly that she was ready to give up her life.
No, no.
The thing that I say, nobody dies with you. Nobody
Nobody died.
dies with you. If you,
And I
maybe 15 people will live with you, but nobody dies with you. So think again before you're living your life as if you're dead.
and a lot of people, I remember talking, because this concept of sati has been there in India for quite some time. Sati is basically when we are burning the body, the female counterpart, if the male is dead, we ask her to sit on the fire with the husband and burn. All right. Now,
She dies.
girls would want to run away, but they could not. They were literally forced to go through it. It was never a pleasant thing. And I really feel that it was not pleasant or the right, thing to be followed in any society. At that time, the reason for satis were very different, which I would not like to discuss here. But it was basically a kind of, it started as a kind of protection for young widows from the society or the evils of society.
So
But the
that
twist and the turn that it took,
Archana, we saying the society is so hopeless that it will not be able to stop its sexual needs from a widow. So the only way to protect her was to kill her.
it was not about sexual needs. It was the sexual needs of the society and the wrong eye that the society would have on this individual.
We didn't ever think of protecting her. We thought we have to kill her, and that's exactly
Mm.
what's happening. Girls are not just raped. 80-year-old, 80-year-old 4 days back was not only raped but she was killed, so that she never stays alive to tell the story. We've had Nirbhaya, and after that, so many Nirbhayas in this world, and yet there is no respite. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have brought that up, but it just
No, it starts a very wrong, thing inside you, even discussing or talking about this topic. It is not easy, and I personally, I mean, with both my girls, with all of us, the ladies in our families and societies, there's just one thing that I know of is be individually strong and be capable of looking after yourself and the ladies around you. That is the only thing that I ask. Please get yourself physically ready to fight come what may. And do not succumb to any kind of such pressures in your family. Do not. I mean, it's high time we stand now. It's really high time.
thank you for that message. Let's continue.
Okay, let's come back to these topics. Now, here we are talking about the kind or the ways. with which we can learn to be detached. A situation where we are detached and attached at the same time. I always cite the example of the nurse who is taking care of the baby. If she is not taking care of the baby with attachment, it is not possible that she can look after the patient or the child or the baby with that kind of, affection and beauty and the required ways. Similarly, when she goes back to her place after doing her activity or action of looking after, taking care, tending to you, she becomes equally detached. All right. Similarly, by practice and only by practice, Sri Krishna is mentioning that detachment is possible. It is impossible that today we sit and learn a chapter of Vairagya or detachment and it happens. No. It takes years of practice. And at times, you are really capable of enlightening that detachment within you within minutes. There's a particular kind of detachment which we all feel when we go for a cremation or a burial. We all go through that. It's called Masani Vairagya. That means the kind of Vairagya or detachment which you feel in that kind of environment. Masan is where we bury or burn our loved ones. All right. The Shamshan or the crematory, or, that's the place. Now we all feel that, see, this is the end. See what has happened to this individual. So many beautiful years of life, and what? It just happened, and he's gone. This is the end. We all go through this thought pattern there. I remember going through it so many times. All right. But the minute you leave that place, you come out of there, or a phone call comes to you, and you're like, okay, fine, you are back in your own world. Okay, cook food, do this, do that, my work, my office, my computer, my this, my this. You get back to your world. Where is the detachment? It is just momentary. That's why it's called Masani Vairagya. All right. Individuals, I am just trying to tell you that detachment is going to be happening to everyone. When you go through such incidents where you lose your loved ones, you have some kind of loss in your life, or any of these episodes which are not pleasant, you do tend to develop detachment. But we've all experienced detachments. We say, okay, fine, from today onwards, this is not going to happen. I'm not going to do this. That is detachment. But that's again very momentary, and we really do not stick to it. What Gita is trying to tell us is that this vairagya or detachment, this concept has to be attained living in this body. All right. We have talked about the Panch Mahabhut, the five elements which make the body, and the Atma. Now, when we are here, the beautiful thing that Gita is telling us, that hearing about Krishna consciousness, it is something like, when a toddler goes to school, you are trying and teaching him, alphabets. So a teacher would keep on repeating A, B, C, D, and listening and repeating that. Even if you are in deep of your sleep today, anybody wakes you up and says, what comes after B? You go, C. It is so much embedded in you. And the similar way, your name, Anu, now that you mentioned, your name is something that you will never forget. It is like that breath that you take. And anybody, if in a room there are five Johns and there's a group of 50 people there, you just call John, and all the five Johns will turn and look towards you. Okay? Because even if in your sleep you cannot forget that, that is the level of attachment you have. All right. Now, what I'm trying to tell you, that if these things, these material things can be learned and concepted and accepted in your body, mind, thought, and subconscious. Similarly, the repetition of Krishna consciousness, the repetition of understanding that you are Atma, you are the Param Pita Parameshwar's child. That is, you are the child of the super soul, the autonomic energy, the energy which is running the universe, the Krishna consciousness. The minute you are hearing, listening, and repeating this to yourself again and again. Similarly, the way the alphabets and your name are imbibed in your conscious and subconsciousness, it is possible that you conceive the concept of detaching yourself from your body and elating yourself to the spiritual world. Please understand that I am not, again, I'm repeating myself again, I'm not asking you to leave everything. I am asking you to be where you are, to be placed happily wherever you are. But the fact that you have to learn to separate yourself from the matter and enlighten yourself in the soul. That is all you have to do. And that will automatically teach you the concept of Vairag.
You know,
It is,
reminds me of Shah Rukh Khan's song, चांद तारे ले आऊं बस इतना सा ख्वाब है. It's
it is
like,
actually,
this is like literally like thinking of pulling the stars from the sky and handling them on the planet Earth and saying, that's all that's required. But that all that's
it
required,
is really
some
that simple.
such a
You
such
know, our
a task.
learnings, our educations have put so many layers around it. And our teachers have made it so difficult. Oh, it is so difficult to attain celibacy. No, it's on you. It's entirely your will. You know, it is something like, I'll share an example. See, our life is something like, okay, an individual is like a passenger, there's a car. Now, the car is this Panch Mahabhut, the material body. Okay. Now, this car, this material body has a passenger, which is the individual. The individual, the car is driven by intelligence. That is the buddhi, the intellect. It drives the car, the material body. Now, what is happening? Now, the mind is basically the driving instrument. Normal, and one more thing, the senses, the five senses that we've been talking, they are like the machine or the horses of the chariot. Okay. What is happening is that there is something called Atma or the self, which is the enjoyer or the doer or the seer. It is just relaxing in the carriage of the Panch Mahabhut and looking at the whole world and seeing, oh wow, he's crying, this is happening, this is gain, this is loss. It is the Atma sitting and observing everything else. Okay. Now, what happened was, normally what should have happened was that the mind should be directed by the intelligence. Okay. Sorry. But the mind is so obstinate and strong that it overpowers the intellect and it drives your material body in the complete wrong direction. It is something like you have a small acute infection, and that infection is actually capable of surpassing whatever the medication that you're giving. It is something like that. So that body, that material body, is just carried in the wrong direction. Why? Because the mind is not being restrained or taught properly by the intellect.
So, Archana, any idea why in our country we have never been taught the basic principles of all our granthas? I'm not just talking about Bhagavad Gita. I'm talking about Quran. I'm talking about, because we in our country are multilingual and multi-religious people with tolerance to many. We are called. I think one question that constantly came was diversity, unity and diversity. So practically, India is about unity and diversity. My mind really goes, and don't remember ever in my childhood being taught all these, because these are basically tools of communication which are used in NLP, neuro linguistic programming. So I'm constantly wondering why something that's been there for more than 2000 years probably, and why we have never had any education or any kind of understanding of this or putting down. And just, I don't know whether that's a
So
question.
basically,
It was
I'll
that.
share with you something. Let's just talk about Bhagavad Gita only. Now, today, if I go to any school or any kind of educational institute and I tell them that I want to introduce Bhagavad Gita the way I am talking about it. Okay. Now, because we have so many religions and caste and subcaste and so much of variety, not every individual is going to accept Bhagavad Gita like just a book for instructions of life. They will say, no, you are a Hindu and Bhagavad Gita is written, and you mentioned Krishna consciousness, and Krishna is there. So he is a Hindu Lord. So that means basically you're trying to convert everybody to become Hindu. So never a book, a beautiful book like Gita. Like I have not mentioned going to temple anywhere all through my conversation because it's not really the concept. I am asking you to do whatever you want to do. Just try and follow these things in your life and you'll be a happier person. That's all we are discussing. But when it comes to something like this, teaching becomes difficult because of such problems. Otherwise, you can learn from Quran, or even, I mean, I learned so much from Guru Granth Sahib. I love that book. There's so much to learn from it. So it's just that, no other reason.
That our diversity kind of starts challenging us, and do not want to be like the other. And that comes in the way because we think that we are separate from the other, whereas most of the scientists today will tell you that we are all so connected that it's amazing, that if one person across the globe is thinking in a certain way, you will find 14 other people or 30 other people across the globe thinking in the same way at the same time, and will be also working on the similar stuff, which is scientific stuff. And why does that happen during that era, during that time? Nobody knows. It's like a resonance that gets built. One person opens up something and everybody else kind of, it's like they kind of understand and they start absorbing it as a part of the whole story. And that is so amazing. We don't even have to teach the whole universe or everybody what to do. The amount
That's why
learning that happened online during this last 9 months of COVID, it could, and including senior citizens getting into it, amazed me, because no other situation on this planet Earth would have pushed people to come online and to break the barriers of not meeting each other, social distancing intact, how people made it possible. Zoom was always there, social platforms were always there, but gained popularity during this time because this was the only medium left to connect. And that is so amazing. Work.
Anu, I have met, I'll just use this particular word one, so many people who are so learned about Bhagavad Gita and they do not belong to the Hindu community. but the amount of knowledge they have, I mean, it is an absolute bliss to listen to them. The interpretation, because they know the other religious books also, they have related and correlated it with Gita so beautifully and taught at times. It is, I mean, surprising. So, it is our limitation that we do not want to rise above the religion and the caste and the barrier of language and whatnot.
Thank you so much. And that's the attachment that we have. And that's why it's a limitation.
That is why the problem.
Back to
That is
attachment.
the problem.
And we come back to
So,
uh,
yes. I
associating
just,
identity is concerned, and how do you disconnect from that and create a new identity. You can only create a new identity when you finish the last one. Completely make it to the dust, and that's why we have rebirth. Otherwise, we would have kept the last identity and gone to the next birth with that identity. We would have never worked. You have to break down and know that your soul can live so many identities and never get attached to your identity, because getting attached to your identity is the biggest limitation that you can ever create for yourself.
it to ourselves. Absolutely. And that is why the removal of smriti, that is the remembering, the power of remembering, the every birth is taken away. That is why Arjun, when Sri Krishna is mentioning to Arjun that Arjun, I remember every birth of mine and of the whole universe, because I am the only one who is capable of detaching myself from everything and every birth. But you, because your soul has not attained that level of detachment, you are still getting stuck to everything. I'll give a very small sentence here which clearly tells you what detachment or vairagya is. It says, vairagya or detachment basically means that it is a kind of detachment from the matter and engagement of mind in spirit. It nowhere mentions that your Atma or your energy or your soul has to get stuck to some religion or anything. It is just saying spirit. That means that you're getting detached from the mind and the material world and just getting attached to the spiritual world. That is what it is. And the Ashtang Yoga and the way of the practical way of hearing about Krishna consciousness automatically attaches you to the Supreme Spirit. That is all Sri Krishna is saying.
What Archana struck me,
Yeah.
I'm going to say it the way it struck me.
Okay.
When I'm in first grade, my teacher asked me, "Who are you?" And I say, I am Anu Met. I am Anu Kapoor, because that is who I was then. I am Anu Kapoor, and my mom is so and so, and my dad is so and I have a sister who is so and so.
Hmm.
Even when she's asking me about my identity, and second grade, I'm talking about the family that I have. I'm talking about what I know as a name that they gave me. I'm talking about I being Hindu because they told me so. And it's almost like a feedback which has got repeated and conditioned into my head. Now,
Yeah.
what if I go into the 10th grade and my narrative now changes because I have got attached to the identity at the second grade? And I am still saying the same things, and I'm crying over maybe my mom's not there anymore, dad's not there anymore. And my life feels like finished because, the narrative that I created in the second grade is not there anymore, but I want to hold on to that narrative.
Yeah.
And it feels like when we are talking about vairagya or detachment, we are also talking about how this attachment that we have to our narrative of who we are has become so fossiled within us, in our mind, in our psyche, that we cannot think of ourselves any differently. I am the king, I am a woman, I am this, I am that. Everything when I say I am, that is telling me about my attachment. I hear
Yeah.
very few people who says, I don't know who I am and I don't want to know. I'm okay being influenced.
Anu, the beauty is that when we are born, we are just individuals. Like in our system, we get our name on the sixth day. Till 6 days, we are just a baby, just a child. And we accept that name so much to us. And the minute the soul leaves the body, you know what we say? So and so has gone. The name is the first thing to leave. Late so and so. So it is the fact, yes, we get so attached to these things, and that is why Sri Krishna is telling again and again that you will not be able to detach yourself if you are going to be continually attached so much to your I. That is the small I.
No, it's so fantastic that before the person dies, he's your father, she's your mom, she's your child, he's your child. Minute the person is gone, he's just a body.
Yes.
And you don't
We
even,
never, yeah,
you don't call him by the name, you say he's the dead body or she's the dead body.
we always call it the dead body.
Exactly. And it's like the relationship finishes. It's
Yes.
like a complete full stop,
That,
ultimate goodbye, and ultimate becoming invisible, back again to the place where you were in the petri dish, probably, or inside the mom, invisible sperm and invisible ova. Today I was here reading in the newspaper and saying after 27 years of the ova being frozen, the baby was delivered very well, despite it being frozen, the ova being frozen for 27 years. Technology has gone to that extent that we can keep, if we can keep a birth in limbo for 27 years, then if we do not detach, if the soul does not detach, it can keep itself in limbo, God knows for how many years.
oh, it can. And the worst is, Anu, now that we're talking about detachment, let me tell you, we are the most attached only to ourselves. Only to ourselves. I mean, if you have a headache and your most beloved child comes, Mama, Mama, give me a candy, and you're going to just leave me and go because your head is hurting. It is you.
And
You need to be completely at ease.
psychologists call it the
Yes, they do.
and which takes, they actually say that the self forms the mandala uh, formation. It goes in circles, exactly in the way the ova is in circle. Yourself actually becomes the yoke, where the child actually believes in the first 1 year that he is the center stage, that
Yes,
because of him the world moves around, and world is moving around only for him, and he's moving the world. So he feels
that's what.
the cause and effect, because every time he cries the mother is there, every time something happens somebody is there. So he becomes the center stage. And literally in some of the therapies that they do, they realize that when people are keeping play therapy, they realize that people put things in the center of the stage, and that center of the stage, or when we're looking at the drawings and looking at the center part, that center part where whatever is placed is actually showing you what you're investing yourself in.
Yes, absolutely. So that is why that the detachment has to start from self. You cannot be detached to everything and everybody around you and just be attached to yourself. It's not possible, right? And I think today I'll call it off because I need to go to the
Yes.
place we
So
were
let's
talking about.
conclude by saying, beautiful people, that my mentor, Dr. Kwesi, who is an ophthalmologist, and he is a beautiful man from Ghana, lives in Germany right now with his wife and a child, beautiful wife. And he often talks about eye problems and attachment. And he often talks about how these attachments basically warp our eyesight to that extent and create diseases in our eye, which are probably about, he's taught about 30 or 40 diseases of the eye. And most of them are attachment of certain area of your life, or how you want your vision to see, what you want to see, what you want to hear, what you want to taste, what you want to feel. We often say, why didn't he speak like this? Because we are attached to hearing it like that, and we think if somebody had spoken to us like that, then we would have understood. If there are no accidents in this universe, then it was presented to you in the way that you didn't have a choice but to accept it and digest it. So life doesn't come with a menu card. Life comes with no instruction book. Life comes with love and challenges. If you can love every challenge, you will ride over every attachment, and you will be a better person tomorrow. That's from me. Over to Archana to conclude. Thank you.
Absolutely. I know that was very beautifully said. And people, please, nowhere are we asking you to stop loving your loved ones. Love them with all the grit that you have, because it takes a lot of effort to really love somebody. Okay. And first and foremost, please love yourself and stop hurting yourself by letting each and everything come and disturb you. Take care of yourself, love yourself, and we'll continue this as possible. Thank you.
I'm just going to put the last word here, if you can see my screen share. And I'm just going to do something for all of you. Love. Let's turn it around. EVOL. Have you? Evolution and love are directly connected with each other. When you spell it the other way around, it is the beginning of evolution. And you need to get that. We are talking about you cannot evolve without love. You just cannot evolve without love. So, beautiful people, this is not about detaching or becoming numb in your space. This is about loving and creating the love of your lifetime, but minus attachment. Knowing, like my daughter came and gave me this little puppy and said, you know what, mom? She's going to be with you just for 10 years. And maybe she'll go earlier, but definitely just 10 years. Don't get too attached to her. Love her. She's come here to give you a lot. And it felt
Yes,
as if she was standing there and teaching me Gita and saying, you know what?
absolutely.
You don't fall in love with her so much that you can't do without her. The day she's not there, your life must continue with the same love as it did when she was there and you were learning to love her. So thank you. Namaste. बहुत
Thank you.
बहुत शुक्रिया, in gratitude to Archana and to everybody. Like we said, this is not a commitment. Whenever it's possible, we'll be coming back again. Thank you.
All individuals sailing our boats. So whenever, yes, we'll dock soon.
Yes, absolutely.
See you.